Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Zara. Awesome. Yes, I'm so glad to be here and really excited to speak with everyone. Hi, I'm Juliana, and I created my business that's called Promosaurus about 2.5 years ago. After about 15 years of working in communications, marketing, administration, sales, and business development for the environmental sector, I mostly worked for small businesses, and in those, there's always like you always end up having to do a lot of everything. But the main focus I had was the marketing. So when I struck out on my own, I decided that's what I would do. It's also fun to be creative and yeah, so that's what I do with my business. And I help organizations with ethical and ecological values shine in their communities and to grow a sustainable society and landscape. So I'd like to share that I am located in Guelph, Ontario, which is situated on the ancestral homelands of the Anishinaabe peoples, specifically the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the lands of the Haudenosaunee and the Arawandurunk neutral peoples. I'm very grateful for these original stewards of the land. So I got into marketing through my work as an environmental activist and advocate, actually. So when I was in undergrad, I'd go to protests and consider the communication used and their effectiveness. I also worked with other students to get the U of G to eliminate styrofoam from campus. And as part of the university's sustainability program, I expanded the recycling system, started the university off with their first outdoor recycling bins. That's that really bad quality picture in the middle. That's I got the workshop to create these lids for the regular bins. So those were the first outdoor recycling bins on campus, and worked to increase recycling rates in buildings. This is the stuff that I was doing on campus. And in these and other instances, I started learning about the principles of community based social marketing, which is about using marketing to promote environmentally sustainable behaviors. And the more I learned about environmentalism and marketing, the more I saw how important branding is. For instance, if we want to get people to recycle more, they had to recognize recycling bins right away and feel confident that recycling works. So it's all branding. At the same time, I saw that there was evidence that some marketers, especially at large corporations, were using marketing principles to manipulate people's perspectives and buying habits by claiming that their ecologically damaging products are harmless or denying or downplaying the harm that those products cause. And this, as you all know, is greenwashing. So my goal here for the next hour with you is to review the basics and how-to of branding, especially for a social enterprise. And then we will get into the juicy stuff, greenwashing, and how to avoid it when you have a business that is a force for good. And I want to do this while also reminding everyone to be proud of and celebrate the positive impacts that your business or organization makes in the world. So please keep that in mind. To get us started with branding, I present to you the fancy 4-star motel. You can all see the issue with this sign as soon as you look at it, right? If the sign was really for a fancy 4-star motel, then surely the sign wouldn't have been painted onto a whiteboard that didn't fit the frame properly. Or if it's as run down as the sign looks, maybe instead it should say motel that away. But I guess to give them some credit, they didn't say that it was a 5-star. So what makes good branding? Whatever kind of organization or business you have or work for, branding is key for making sure that your audience recognizes you and knows how to continue to engage with your campaigns, products, or services. Like these two organizations, ideally, you don't need the logos to know that Greenpeace is the organization behind the message on the left, or that BLM, Black Lives Matter, is the one behind the protest on the right. Now, BLM is a little different because it's a movement, but they've still created a logo that can help to bring some connectivity between all the different facets of this movement, which I think is really helpful. With good branding, things are consistent so that at the very least they aren't confusing, like the sign that we saw, right? The sign literally says fancy 4-star, but the impression is anything but that. So it causes confusion for people or a good laugh. By having the visuals designed with consistent images, colors, and fonts and styles online and printed in the physical world, a consistent message is provided to the audience when you have good marketing and good branding and consistency. So a good brand also always tells customers what they can expect and hold you to when they work with you. With these two examples, maybe you can think about what can you expect from them. So I'll test at the top 3 pictures. That is a luxury cashmere brand. And does someone want to share what are some traits that they would expect of the Altesse brand? So perhaps, it's comfy and okay, there we go. Luxury, someone says, and perhaps expensive. Yeah. And top quality. Yeah. So that's exactly what they are trying to actually get across here, and what their logo and their branding shows you. And yeah, comfort as well, because you see people looking really cozy in their cashmere scarves and sweaters. And how about the traits that you might expect of All Things Preserved? So that is a company based out of Kitchener that produces products that are reusable, that allow you to reduce waste. What are some things that you would expect of that? So eco-friendly, yeah. And sustainable, that it's reused materials. If you buy something, it might be a reused sheet or whatnot. That it's affordable, recycled and functional, everyday and economical. Yeah, so more like everyday use items that the general public can use and hopefully reduce their waste with, and multifunctional. Yeah, for sure. So they've done a great job at being consistent in their branding, which is actually, it's kind of funny because I asked Susan at All Things Preserved if she would mind if I used her, photos and her logo and whatnot. And she was like, well, I don't think my branding is very, very good, but sure, go ahead. And I'm like, actually, I think your branding's really great because it's consistent, and it, even the logo, it has like that rugged look, right? And almost like rebellious. And I think that really represents well the intentions of it, that it's like disruptive, right? Because we are going away from the status quo products and using reusables to reuse our waste. So branding also shows you what you are not, and by doing that, it gives focus. So All Things Preserved, consistent messaging and products makes you confident that you are not going to be getting your order double wrapped in plastic. Good branding also clicks for the audience that it is a good match with. So if you're passionate about the garment industry in the third world, but you also like luxury products and high-end clothing, when you connect with Altesse and you see that everything's in line in that way with those two sides, it feels good. And that's what we all want for our audiences. So how to brand your social enterprise well. There's a strong tendency to think of the visuals as the brand. But there is more to Greenpeace and Black Lives Matter than the visuals that make up the brand, right? The visuals come out of an understanding of the brand core. So that is the purpose, vision, mission, and values, and also your brand personality, which is the voice and tone. Your brand core also determines your ideal client, because really, you're not going to choose an ideal client that doesn't align with your brand core, right? So it all kind of fits together and feeds into your brand. Now, the brand also feeds the audience experience. So just to back up a bit, the visuals, that includes the color, fonts, logos, placement, and images. So it's everything that everyone sees. And like I said, it's what people generally think of when they think of branding. But can you think of some aspects of the audience's experience that make up a brand that are not visual, perhaps you could share a few ideas in the chat. Yes, exactly. So the feeling that you get from the product, and also from interacting with the business, or whether it's a product or service. This also ties to the expectations that people come to have of the business. So as you can see, all the aspects of branding affect one another in some ways and feed into each other. So a little bit more about those inputs. The core is really important because this is the purpose behind your organization and why you likely started it in the first place. And the mission is how you plan to deliver on that purpose. It'll also determine what kind of business and what service or product you provide to the world. I find that the more passionate you are, the more this naturally gets captured in the brand, but the more clarity you have on it, the better. Can someone tell me the purpose of their organization or their business? Accounting for social enterprises. So that's Zara's purpose. So likely your purpose a little bit more like your vision is to help social enterprises to have success and confidence in their financial aspects, so that they can feel so they can really focus on their purposes of making the world a better place. So end domestic abuse. Wow, that is a really powerful purpose that you have. And so very important. Thank you for the work that you do. Creating sustainable business strategies to increase social impact. That's also really awesome. So you're creating sustainable business strategies. Okay, so perhaps you're helping your your clients to create those strategies for themselves. And that's really great. I'm sure that social enterprises, many of them would really love some help with that, right? So everyone has really strong purposes, and having that strong core will make it easier when it comes to the branding that you do. And the personality of your business or organization is, I find, an extension of the part of your personality that you want to show up in your organization. It will determine, for instance, the level of professionalism or playfulness. Can someone share the personality that they like to communicate through their brand? Also, I see that I missed a couple of the purposes here. So Isabel said her purpose was supporting entrepreneurial thinking through circular and extracurricular programming at the University of Calgary. That's amazing. Thank you. So WEC, the personality is friendly and helpful. So that's so great. And everyone that uses these platforms definitely appreciates that, right? Okay, so the ideal client affects the brand as well. For instance, if your brand aims to target women executives in their 50s, your branding will look a lot different than if it's targeting millennial hipsters. So finally, does someone want to share who their ideal target market is? So my target market is, of course, environmental organizations and businesses, or businesses that have those aspirations. So because of that, I have a lot of natural kind of features in my marketing, right? It's very organic, lots of plants, wildlife. Colin says that his is commuting professionals and parents 20 to 35. Awesome. So in your marketing and branding, you would feature, people that are clearly in that age range. You wouldn't feature, 50 or 60-year-olds, although those perhaps their grandparents, perhaps their caretakers, but you would use images of people in that age range and show them doing those things, and also use like the styles that are like more popular for people in that group. So that's a lot. But how on earth can you get all of that into visuals that align for your branding? So we will dig into that now. A great place to start is with a big mood board. Free up your creative mind and see what comes to you in a brainwave to create a collection of visual assets that represents your business. It can contain your why, so things that represent the passion that got you started on the business, like we were talking about earlier. Those things may be inspirational examples with the colors, photos, and quotes related to it. Also, images that relate to your values, images and aspects that you can add that relate to the personality you want your business or organization to have, pictures of your audience, and also things to represent how you want your clients to feel when they work with you. You can include things that you enjoy related to your business, fonts that you like, and anything else that you feel is a visual representation for your brand. So you can really go wild with this. You can do it with paper and scissors, or you can use programs like Canva. That's really good. Or Pinterest actually is really great too, because as you're going through Pinterest, anything you see that relates, you can just pin it, add it to the board, and then you'd have this big collage, right? So that can be really useful. Since this mood board at this stage isn't something that's directly feeding into creating a logo or a color scheme, you can experience some joy with this, have fun with it, and don't feel too pressured to get it perfect. And yeah, without worrying about that final outcome. Next, you're going to narrow down your mood board to provide the vision for the brand. To do this, you would narrow down things that best represent your business, select fewer images that represent multiple images from the brainstorm, and select your favorite colors and whatnot from it, and the favorite fonts and things that you think fit the larger picture. So maybe you really love, kind of scribbly text, but if your target market is actually like executives in their 50s or something, then that might be something you just save for your own personal stuff and focus on the nice, neat font that you also like. So I also think it's great to make notes about the different aspects on the board at this point. So you would include the reasons why those things are on there. It can provide, and because this can provide some direction to take the branding design. Because, for instance, you might be looking at your more of like the brainstormed step and think, why do I have this train track on there? But now you can be like, right, because it's the journey, right? Maybe your business or your service really helps with the journey that your clients would be on. So you can remind yourself of that. And because maybe it wouldn't be a train tracks, maybe you can find something else that helps to represent it well in your branding or in your marketing. And you would also choose colors that match your mood board. And it doesn't have to be a perfect match to the colors that are in the photos, but things that are close enough, right? It's kind of like the pictures give suggestions for it. And at the end of this step, you've got a cohesive direction for your brand that can be displayed and understood, ideally on one page. And that'll make the next step easier. You can work on the brand design to create a brand's visual identity. This is the step that I honestly recommend getting some outside objective perspectives and some design help. Even for myself, I want to include everything. So it can be hard to let go of extras. Like, as you probably noticed, I have a dinosaur in my logo. My logo basically is a dinosaur. So, there was a time when my website just had dinosaurs everywhere. But as you can tell, I'm not a marketer for paleontologists. I'm a marketer for environmentalists. So I have shifted things, and there are still reasons for having the dinosaur, but I have shifted it so there's more of that ecological focus. So that's why it's great to get some extra, outside perspective. And it's always easier to help others than it is to help yourself. Even I find that. Anyways, so Monty Python's pretty funny. I just thought that'd be a good fit right now. Of course, I'd love to help you with your branding, but even to just go to your friends who have a bit of a stylistic, artistic mind or skills, that can be helpful to get something narrowed down that is a good representation without your own biases kind of driving it too much. With that mood board and that external help, it's entirely possible that your brand design is already done. your color palette might be clear or just needs some refinement. There may be some inspiration for logos, and there might not be any need to go hunting for more. You might have it right there. It might just be really obvious. So if your mood board is full of loose, natural elements, like the image in the middle, then an organic shape and organic type of writing may be the right choice for your logo. And if, on the other hand, your mood board is full of rustic, weather-worn wood, then you might use an image and fonts that looks a little bit more rough and rugged, like the one I created on the left. And if it's very clean and spacious, then thin straight lines will be a good fit for your logo and fonts. So I just threw those logos together. Yeah, and just, so these are completely made up organizations. But I thought, yeah, that they were decent examples of how you can take the style from your images and use that to inspire your logos. So the final result is that you have a brand guide that describes the organization's visual identity. It'll hold all of the tactical details for maintaining brand consistency. So I thought I would share my own brand guide for Promosaurus. As you can see, it has my brand logo, the color scheme, some extra icons with either the black outline or white. And it has some key images and also the fonts that are used for different purposes. And it identifies exactly what those colors are. So this is still a little bit of a work in progress, and that's really okay. It's really okay if your brand guide and your branding overall is a bit of a work in progress, and it can always evolve and be adjusted as you're going along with your business, because also, as I'm sure you have found, your business also, always is evolving and needing adjustments as you go along, and realize, you'd rather focus on this a little bit more than this thing. So environmental organizations may have slightly different branding than social justice related organizations. Eco branding usually has plants, water, and other natural elements. So that's, organic shapes that are less symmetrical, and they're earthy, earthy colors. And there's lots and lots of icons online that you can find to represent things. This icon with the trees is a little bit more like straight lines, but it also depends on the style that you want to have, right? So on the other hand, social justice related organizations, their branding will have a strong people, multiculturalism, and inclusivity kind of aspect to it. And it'll show bold icons, bold graphics that show caring and also connection. So it can kind of be different in that way. Or they can also show strength and resilience. And like I said, there's always lots of icons out there that you can use. And then there's lots of crossover, of course, because many of the social issues are very strongly connected to environmental issues. So like this graphic that I found, it has a combination of both, which is great. Feelings that your audience get when they engage or work with you, that's all about the audience experience. And this is important because if not a great experience, they're not going to want to work with you. So one way you can make sure there is consistency in the audience's experience is by creating policies and procedures in how you interact with your customers. Of course, we're all human, and so am I. So there are times when I'm feeling a little less joyful or playful, even though that's a part of my brand, right? But I try to post and create content when I'm perhaps a little bit more on that side. But at the same time, like we've had a lot of conversation about authenticity in this conference so far, and that's also really important to me. So even though, I guess, like, even though you may have an idea that, joyfulness and playfulness is a part of my brand, I'm just trying to say we're all human and we do our best, and it might not always be perfectly consistent. The audience may also come to have expectations based on what they've seen of your brand so far. So they may come to expect a similar quality. And if that's paired with good feelings, then they will become loyal customers. So the experience is very important. So there are many parts to a brand, and they all interact with each other and can guide your brand in different directions. And also you can really have control of many of these different aspects as well. So you can kind of guide your brand in different directions by focusing on any of these things. Branding is also really useful for directing or changing behavior, something that is a major part of moving our society in a sustainable direction. And that's interesting, or sorry, what's interesting is that behaviors extend beyond the boundaries of a specific business, organization, or a territory. For instance, recycling is something that is reliant on behaviors. So having the right colors is important for the bins and all of the materials used. And of course, it helps to have good guides for people to follow in their homes or at the office or whatnot, because what we want is for people to recycle, not just at home or just at the office, but everywhere they go, and also when they leave one city and go to the next. So I think that the waste management industry, although it still has its flaws, has done a great job of getting that consistency around the colors. So it's just, I find really interesting that branding is also useful for changing behavior, and this is a good example of it. Okay, so we've covered branding. And now, before we get into greenwashing, I would love to take some questions if you have any. Okay, so how do you prevent the social justice branding from becoming stale or stereotypical? How do you make it stand out? Right. And I think that that is a common challenge for anyone in these in any social enterprise, right? So if you're environmental or you're social justice or you're somewhere in between or whatever it is, whatever kind of impact you're trying to have, especially to ourselves, because we are so engaged with it all the time. Like, it's easy to see a lot of that content and think, well, what makes my stuff unique and worth it for people to pay attention to. I mean, I follow lots of environmental efforts and organizations, and I can think, well, is my content stale, or is it so stereotypical, so is it cliche, so people might not want to engage with it? But at the same time, I guess what I remember is that whatever I do is going to be, it'll just inherently be unique from anyone else's, because it's me doing it, not because I am extremely special compared to everyone else, but just that each person has a different take and a different angle that they will use with their branding and their material, and everyone's doing a slightly different thing. So I suppose that it can start to look a little bit stale if you are using Canva or something for your marketing, and you pick just the top icons that exist there. So try to find something unique, and if you bring yourself authentically to your branding, then I think that it will be unique, because you yourself are an authentic, unique individual. So I hope that answers your question. And as someone was mentioning earlier, or in one of the earlier workshops, oh, now I'm forgetting what I was thinking, but just that, yeah, we all want to be authentic, and so by doing that, then you'll have I think you will inherently find your own voice and your own images for your branding. Okay, so we've covered branding, And now you have a fun and creative project to do with your best collaging skills. So now let's get into the juicy stuff, greenwashing and social washing, and how to avoid it when you have a business that is a force for good. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to just use the term greenwashing to incorporate both aspects, but I in no way think that that is more of a concern than social washing. So I just wanted to let you know right up front about that. So this picture is from Extinction Rebellion, their demonstration at COP26 over the last 2 weeks. As I'm sure you're well aware, corporations have used the powers of branding to manipulate and mislead their audiences. It's a communication and marketing strategy to use green, nature, ecology, and other catchy phrases to increase sales and maximize profit. Like they show here on their poster, greenwashing marketers are firms that have been making lots of money doing this, right? It's, you know, big industry. And I wish I actually knew which companies were hired by Shell and some other big corporations to do this marketing. But greenwashing happens when our actions and messages around sustainability and or ethics don't align, transparency is missing, and the contradictions are numerous or very significant. It became something that I was concerned about when working to increase recycling rates at the University of Guelph, because people get the impression that recycling doesn't work when they see examples of it going wrong and not diverting waste, like this bin at Starbucks. So as you can see, this person's able to put his hand through the garbage into the recycling area. So clearly, like, it's not separated by, you know, it's not two different bags, it's just one bag. So the recycle symbol, you know, it doesn't really mean too much in this case. So to me, this bin indicates that either Starbucks is greenwashing by trying to show that they are green, even though they have no follow through, or a staff person just didn't set it up properly that way. And the picture was, you know, the day that the picture was taken. So it might have been a naive, harmless thing. But either way, people see this and think that recycling overall, that practice is greenwashing. Although, you know, recycling really needs to improve, and really, you know, our consumption of the initial products needs to be decreased. It is still important, especially at this time, and tons of products are recycled daily across the planet. So it's not super helpful that Starbucks has this bin that's set up completely wrong. So when we're advertising sustainable initiatives, none of us here want to be lumped together with companies greenwashing like this. So Kimberly-Clark Corporation, which is the corporation behind Huggies, they produce disposable diapers that fill up landfills, right? So that didn't stop them, though, from creating Huggies Pure and Natural line, which invites consumers to discover the pure bliss of a diaper that includes gentle, natural materials. But how many people, especially sleepy parents, will dig into that, past the leaves and grass and green writing, to determine whether the diapers really are natural? So Kimberly-Clark wouldn't reveal whether the cotton is certified organic, and although organic cotton is said to be included in the outer cover, the actual organic content remains a mystery. So the diapers also don't include any organic cotton on the inside surface of the diaper, which seems ironic since that's what actually touches the baby's skin. So the diapers can also contain unnatural and potentially harmful ingredients such as polypropylene and sodium polycrylate. Huggies also boasts that the packaging of this line is recycled with 20% post-consumer materials. However, more eco-friendly or eco-oriented companies are using 100% recycled content. So they also don't sell any biodegradable diapers. And they were rated the lowest in terms of eco-health out of all the green diapers, or diapers in the market that identified themselves as green. So if Huggies green branding on the packaging was to be proportional to the actual balance of sustainability of the product, I think it would look more like this. So on this packaging, I've added this leaf and the little note that it includes some cotton grown without pesticides. And I mean, I'm kind of assuming that part, but that would be more proportional, right? So this is what makes this greenwashing, is that their communications regarding their product being green is really disproportional to the actual environmental rating of the product. In terms of social washing, I kind of get the impression from it that this might be a 2-for example, right? So Huggies, are they trying to appeal to Black populations and those that want to be woke by showing a Black baby? By doing a bit of research, it looks like Kimberly-Clark has created some programs for inclusion and have a non-discrimination policy. However, this isn't the area of my expertise, and I'm unsure how significant those actions are. It also could be argued that by putting a Black baby on the packaging that they're supporting inclusion and diversity, but I am very interested to know if anyone has any other thoughts on this aspect of the packaging. What do you think about whether this may be social washing? So he says social washing, yes. And I agree. Especially given that they are doing such extensive greenwashing on this packaging, I think that it really seems that they're going the whole way, right? That it really gives that impression, at least. So it'd be nice if they were aware of that. So in contrast to that example, you are here because you're led by your values to make a positive impact for people and the natural world. I know you're not trying to mislead anyone. So let's look at how we can avoid giving that dreaded impression and avoid using sustainability as a marketing buzzword. So first off, you absolutely want to share the good work that you're doing. So don't, shy away from that. And I'll be talking about that a little bit later. You can avoid greenwashing through making sure that your actions and messages align. So if you say that you care about the environment, your organization should be doing all the easy eco stuff as much as possible, right? So visitors won't see that you have disposable cutlery if, ecology is part of your branding. Also, when you're representing your business, make sure to include authenticity, integrity, and transparency in your marketing so that people can truly see what aspects you're doing ecologically, sound, and what you still have some improvements to make with. So the green activities should get an amount of attention in the marketing that is proportional to how the green actions stack up against everything else. So like I was saying earlier. So also you want to work to limit contradictions that can give an impression that you're not genuine and maybe greenwashing. So having sustainability integrated in your business can be a great tool to help to guide your sustainability and continue to move in that sustainable direction. And then you'll have more environmental messages that you can share, more things that you can talk about. So marketing is just one part of a business or organization's practice that will suggest whether washing is happening. The other half is your actions, and people will see what those actions are. So the key is to make sure that the actions of your organization are living out the values, and to communicate a consistent message that reflects your organization's values accurately. So you can use your branding to show that you are genuine in your dedication to the values of your organization. We should acknowledge, however, that it's really hard to avoid some contradictions, especially in a society where the cheaper, easier options are usually riddled with environmental and social issues, and that sometimes trying to make one thing more sustainable can create or expose other eco or social issues. For instance, it may seem easiest and cheapest for a cafe to use all disposables. If the cafe wants to become more green and get ceramic cups, they will need a dishwasher, which will increase water and soap usage. So the quest to become eco-friendly continues, and with it, the assessment of how each change will affect the environment. It can take a lot of work, but by having sustainability as part of your organization's plans and mission, you can improve your practices and products on a continual basis. This will improve the sustainability of your organization over time, and you can share the process with your audience as you go. And we should not let the fear of the contradictions keep us from communicating the work that we're doing to increase our environmental sustainability. Use your marketing to be honest with your audience. Share the work that you're doing and the challenges. Express that where you have shortcomings, what improvements you're working on, and what you believe you're doing well. By having your products and your actions back up your messages, and by being honest about where you're at in the process, your audience will see that you're genuine and want to join you for the ride. On that note, I want to mention that environmentalists and people who are dedicated to social justice are often so conscious that shame can come along with self-promotion, and we can tend to devalue or dismiss our important work. So I don't want you to do that. Be proud of the work you're doing and don't be afraid to show it. I actually think this presentation may have been better titled How to Show Your Pride for the Awesome Work You're Doing Without Worrying About Greenwashing, because I know you're here for the right reasons, but that was clearly too long. So show yourself to be a human being with flaws by perhaps sharing some of the challenges or accidents, such as sending your partner to pick up laundry detergent for washing the napkins that you've just gotten for your cafe, and they accidentally get tied. You're not going to damage. I feel that you won't damage your credibility if you also, if you share this and you also share how you're planning to fix it, especially if you say that you'll be filling up the old bottles at the bulk store moving forward. I think that we're at a bit of a point in society. It's like we feel a pressure to be perfect. And that can feel almost like a pressure to greenwash out of that need to be perfect. And I think we should challenge that, because we should instead be authentic. And if we were authentic, we wouldn't be afraid to share that, a challenge came up or an accident came up or something got wasted. And at the same time, if we weren't afraid to be, if we were okay with being imperfect, I think we would also be a little bit better at showing the things that we're proud of, which I think is also really important. So I know this is all really difficult, and it actually requires a lot of vulnerability. I did a post recently all just about that, about how if you're marketing authentically, there's a lot of vulnerability involved. So do what you can, and the process also isn't perfect. But through honesty, evidence, and visual branding, all of which align with your business's values, you can show your ideal audience that you are the perfect match for them. There's a couple ways that a couple other ways that you can do this. One being to get certified, and we talked a little bit about that earlier. So you need to do that with some awareness, and be critical about it a little bit, because although you might, I don't know. So B Corp, for instance, it can still be a positive thing, a useful thing. I know some local businesses that have put a lot of effort into it. But you might want to think about, do I want to invest in that when, sometimes people have the impression that it's just greenwashing. However, the organic industry has done a really great job. They have inspectors that visit the farms, that visit the processors. So it is really, I think, really great. In Canada, at least definitely in Ontario, I'm a little foggy on the rest of Canada, but in Ontario, any food item that says it's organic, they need to be certified. So it's actually not, you're not allowed to say that you are organic, that your food is organic if it isn't certified. Unfortunately, that's not the case with things like diapers or other like cosmetics and personal care products. So by getting your branding aligned with your vision for your business and your core values, you will attract and connect with your ideal client. be honest and open with that audience, and you'll have a strong brand that you feel good about and that your audience will come flying towards you because of. Someone asked a question, how can we tell a story more genuinely that we are not 100% green, but we do contribute in some way? So yeah, again, share what you are doing. So if you have switched over to all renewable product or reusable products at your cafe rather than all, many disposables, or even if you've switched over to one reusable product, you can share that and say, like, we are no longer going to have, napkins that come from, cutting down forests, and we're no longer going to have, stir sticks that come from the forest, and show people some stats to show how significant that is, right? Because over a year, cafe probably uses like several kilograms or something of stir sticks that come from that might come from old growth forests. Like, I'm not entirely certain where they come from, but you could do some research into that too, right? So you could show the significance of moving away from that and to providing only, metal spoons. And you have like the dirty cup, the clean cup, and people get that, right? So you can show those little steps that you're taking to be green, and people will appreciate that. And by showing, authentically the stories of what you actually do, I think that it's engaging for people and they'll trust you more. That is how you can be genuine about it. One time, I was visiting my dad, and it came up that he was like, well, I can't get all entirely organic food. That would just be too expensive. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you know what? Here's a list of the ones that are most important to get organic because of the impact on the environment, welfare of animals, and your health. So even if you just focus on that one thing, that can be really useful, right? So it's the same thing with your branding and with the messages you put out there. What the things that you are doing to be green, to be more sustainable, they are valuable. So I think that it is worthwhile to share those. And it's all step by step, right? And like I said earlier, if you incorporate these things into your business plan, then you can continue to move in that environmentally sustainable and socially sustainable direction. Okay, thank you, Zara, for giving me a couple extra minutes there.
No, no worries. Thank you, Juliana. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. I know marketing is always a big one for me because I come from an accounting background. So that was really great. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.